Something I've never quite understood about the Harry Potter universe is the reverence post-series that is applied to Severus Snape's character, who, in my humble opinion, was baselessly cruel and vindictive throughout much of his life. I think that the abuse he suffered as a child, horrible, like the way that Harry's father bullied him, all of that, like abjectly, like there's no argument, like it's really awful. But this notion that just because he nursed a private, unrequited love and longing for Harry's mother, that it could somehow absolve the abuse that he then went on to constantly direct at others is, to me, a fundamentally problematic assertion. Because this man was verbally, emotionally degrading all of the students of Hogwarts like 247. And we're just supposed to forget that a grown-ass man was tormenting all these kids just because he had this girl that he was in love with that did not love him back. I get that he also had his whole thing with Dumbledore, and I think that, you know, the way that he was secretly looking out for Harry throughout the books. And so one could argue, oh, he has to keep up this kind of ruse of hating Harry in order to be a convincing Death Eater. Like, he's never going to be able to do things like make this unbreakable vow in front of Bellatrix if, you know, it's put into question his loyalties, and he's had to not only fool Lord Voldemort and all of the Death Eaters, but has also had to earn the trust of Dumbledore. But it seemed like his hate was very genuine. It didn't seem like he was putting on a show. It didn't seem like he was having to reach for the persona. Like, this man was a bully. He was a bully. I think this is something, when I think about this series, that I sometimes go, huh. And then the other thing is, like, the blatant fat phobia in the books. And I feel such a strange relationship to these books, because obviously I disagree vehemently with the statements that the author has made the past few years. However, even though I vehemently disagree with everything Joanne Rowling has said, these books you can't like ignore that they were like such an iconic part of your childhood, that they were very informative to your writing and love of reading, all these different things. But upon like rereading them as an adult and thinking about the influence they had on popular culture, another thing that's so troubling to me is how fat phobic these books are. Every bad character is fat. Dudley Dursley, Vernon Dursley, Dolores Umbridge. Fatness is associated with vindictiveness, with greediness. It's a very like filled with like a lot of anti-fat bias. And the fat characters who aren't evil, like Hagrid, are kind of put in this very strange position where they're seen as like silly or stupid. Their intellect is often commented upon negatively. They fall into these stereotypes of like the jolly, affable friend. Any attempt at like romantic courting, like when he's like really interested in the other half-giant woman from Beauxbatons, everyone's like the trio is like grossed out when they see him like getting ready for the date. It could be because they're kids and so it's like their teacher and they're like but it's also just like so weird that it's like fat people in this universe are like, they're either bullies, they're villains, or they're just oafs. They're like big, like kind of like lumbering oafs. You could also think about Crabbe and Goyle and the ways that they are like the villain, like lackey accomplice to Draco Malfoy. I know I'm giving this entirely too much thought, but it's just something that's been on my mind, I guess.